Chamber in prayer. You may proceed, sir.
Let us bow our heads in prayer, close our eyes, yet open our hearts and minds. Almighty Father, O Allah, the merciful, we come before you today with humble hearts, grateful for the privilege to serve our beloved country and your people. As we begin this session, we ask for your guidance and blessing upon each one of us here. We implore your guidance, O Holy Father. Give us the wisdom and the courage to pursue meaningful legislations so that we will continue to build a just and humane society. Grant us unity so that we could work together for the betterment of our fellow Filipinos. Help us ensure that the welfare of your people will always be our utmost priority. And in the words of Saint Francis of Assisi, in his prayer for peace, which I quote, "Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Bless our nation with peace and progress, and bless our leaders to govern with integrity, compassion, and justice. All this we humbly ask in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Senator Go.
Secretary, will please call the roll. Roll call of members. The Honorable Senator Aquino, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Ontiveros, Senator Lacson, Senator Lapid, Senator Legarda, Senator Marcoleta, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Soto, Senator Tulfo Erwin, Senator Tulfo Rafi, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Camille, Senator Villar Mark, Senator Zubiri, the Senate President.
With 21 senators present, Chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Floor Leader.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, before we proceed, may I just be allowed to recognize some guests from the gallery, guests of Senators Villar and Aquino, Mark Villar and Bam Aquino, LGU officials of Luisiana, Laguna, led by Mayor Jomaver Alvarez and Mayor Venus Jordan of La Paz, Tarlac, guests of Senator Ejercito and Bato de la Rosa, Mayor Ramil Publico with LGU officials of San Vicente, Palawan, Mayor Lito Tito with LGU officials of Aborlan, Palawan, guests of Senators Legarda and Lapid, Mayor Donald Morgolnon from Banawe, Ifugao, Vice Mayor Ernest Oliver Uy of Iligan City, Mayor Alvi Musa from Alicia, Zamboanga, Sibugay, Mayor Rico Puno from Calatagan, Batangas, guests of Senators Pangilinan and Bongo, Mayor Milagros Faderanga and local officials from Banton, Romblon, Mayor Tessie Jean Nacao of Bacuag, Surigao del Norte, guests of Senator Gatchalian, Police Brigadier General Dindo Reyes, Regional Director PNP, Ilocos Region, Police Colonel Claire Ballesteros of Ilocos Region. We welcome all of them in this August chamber.
To the aforementioned guests, welcome to your Senate Majority Leader.
Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we dispense with the reading of the Journal of the 6th session, Wednesday, August 6, 2025, and consider the same as approved.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we defer the approval of the Journal of the 7th session, Monday, August 11, 2025. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Any objection? Hearing none, Secretary is directed to comply.
Bills on first reading, Senate number 351, an act repealing RA 10912, the Continuing Professional Development Act of 2016, Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committee on Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation.
352, providing for security of tenure for all casual and contractual employees of the government who have rendered the prescribed use of service to the national government and the local government units and for other purposes. Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committee on Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation.
353, an act providing for Magna Carta of tricycle drivers and operators, institutionalizing mechanisms for its implementation and for other purposes. Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committee on Public Services and Local Government.
354, establishing the Disability Support Fund for the empowerment, full participation, and inclusion of persons with disabilities in society and appropriating funds therefore. Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committees on Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, and Finance.
355, an act providing for the Magna Carta of Barangay Health Workers. Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Local Government, Ways and Means, and Finance.
356, an act recognizing motorcycles as public utility vehicles, amending RA 4136, the Land Transportation and Traffic Code, and RA 7160, the Local Government Code, as amended for other purposes. Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committees on Public Services and Local Government.
357, an act establishing the Philippine National Police Forensic DNA Database, appropriating funds therefore. Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committees on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, Justice and Human Rights, and Finance.
358, an act mandating law enforcement officers to use a body-worn camera during law enforcement operations, providing penalties for violations and appropriating funds therefore. Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committees on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, and Finance.
359, an act providing for the administrative reform and reorganization of the Philippine Coast Guard, repealing RA 9993, the Philippine Coast Guard Law of 2009. Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committees on Public Services, Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation, and Finance.
360, an act requiring all graduate senior high school and college level students to plant at least 2 trees each as a civic duty for environment protection and climate change mitigation and appropriating funds therefore. Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committees on Basic Education, Higher Technical Vocational Education, and Finance.
361, an act ensuring the senior high school graduates under the K-12 program are equipped with the knowledge, training, and skills demanded in the labor market, enhancing their employability and competitiveness, creating the Batang Magaling Councils to strengthen multi-stakeholder collaboration and support for their employment, allowing deduction of training expenses incurred for the skills development, appropriating funds therefore. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committee on Basic Education, Higher Technical Vocational Education, Ways and Means, and Finance.
362, providing for a 20,000 peso across-the-board increase in the basic monthly salary of all public and elementary and secondary school teachers and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation, Basic Education, and Finance.
360, an act fulfilling the rights and strengthening the privileges of public school teachers under RA 4670, the Magna Carta for Public School Teachers and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Basic Education, Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation, and Finance.
364, an act providing for government assistance to private basic education, further amending RA 6728, the Government Assistance to Students and Teachers in Private Education Act, as amended and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Basic Education and Finance.
Senate number 365, an act establishing a national energy policy and regulatory framework for facilities utilizing waste-to-energy technologies. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Energy, Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change, Ways and Means, and Finance.
366, an act providing for a national energy policy and framework for a clean and just energy transition in the country and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Energy, Ways and Means, and Finance.
367, an act enhancing the governance structure of the Energy Regulatory Commission. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Energy, Civil Service, Government Organization, and Professional Regulation.
368, an act amending RA 9511, granting the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines a franchise to engage in the business of conveying or transmitting electricity through high-voltage backbone, system of interconnected transmission lines, substation, and related facilities, and for other purposes. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Public Services and Ways and Means.
369, an act providing for a comprehensive and responsive civil registration and vital statistics system, repealing Act number 3753 or the Philippine Law and Registry of Civil Status, providing funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Justice and Human Rights and Finance.
370, an act regulating debt collection practices to protect debtors from abuses, harassment, unfair treatment, and misrepresentation. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies.
371, an act legalizing the cultivation of hemp and formulating a comprehensive development plan for the hemp industry, including research and development and capacity building to strengthen its competence and efficiency, providing funds therefore. Senator Padilla.
To the Committees on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, Health and Demography, and Finance.
372, an act lowering the minimum age of criminal responsibility, amending RA 9344, the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act of 2006 as amended and for other purposes, Senator Padilla.
To the Committees on Justice and Human Rights and Women and Children, Family Relations and Gender Equality.
373, strengthening the protection of private sector workers by establishing a national minimum wage and enhancing penalties for non-compliance, amending PD 442, the Labor Code of the Philippines, Senator Padilla.
To the Committee on Labor, Employment and Human Resources Development.
374, an act prohibiting online publication and promotion of gambling-related content, providing penalties therefore and for other purposes, Senator Padilla.
To the Committees on Public Information and Mass Media and Games and Amusements.
375, an act providing for the Magna Carta of Minors, Senator Padilla.
To the Committees on Labor, Employment and Human Resources Development and Finance.
376, an act prohibiting the advertising and sale of sugar, sweetened beverages, junk food, and other unhealthy food products in elementary and secondary schools, providing funds therefore and for other purposes, Senator Padilla.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Basic Education and Finance.
377, an act providing indigent job seekers discounted or waived fees and charges in the issuance of certain pre-employment documents issued by the government agency, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Labor, Employment and Human Resources Development and Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development.
378, an act providing for a 5-year validity period of the professional identification cards of all professionals under the Professional Regulation Commission, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation.
379, an act prohibiting game fixing and providing penalties for violations thereof, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Sports and Games and Amusements.
380, an act creating the Department of Disaster Resilience, defining its mandate, powers, and functions, and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on National Defense and Security, Peace, Unification and Reconciliation, Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, Ways and Means and Finance.
381, an act amending RA 7925, the Public Telecommunications Policy Act of the Philippines by requiring public telecommunication entities and internet service providers to institute a refund mechanism for service outages and disruptions, Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Public Services.
382, an act prohibiting all public telecommunication entities and information and communications technology providers from imposing an expiration period on the validity of prepaid load credits and therefore features, Senator Estrada.
To the Committee on Public Services.
383, an act establishing the Philippine Geriatric Medical Center, otherwise known as the Senior Citizens Hospital, and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Ways and Means and Finance.
384, an act strengthening the Department of National Defense proper and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on National Defense and Security, Peace, Unification and Reconciliation and Finance.
385, an act mandating the establishment, management, maintenance, and regulation of rainwater harvesting facility in all institutional, commercial, industrial, and residential development projects in Metro Manila, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Public Works, Sustainable Development Goals, Innovation and Future Thinking and Ways and Means.
386, an act promoting the production of outstanding and world-class Filipino motion pictures, providing incentives to filmmakers and actors claiming honors in international film competitions and for other purposes, Senator Estrada.
To the Committees on Public Information and Mass Media, Ways and Means and Finance.
387, an act regulating the accessibility and marketing of online gambling in the Philippines, reducing gambling-related addiction and harm, establishing a harm mitigation levy, and for other purpose, Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committee on Games and Amusements and Ways and Means.
388, an act providing for a national policy in preventing adolescent pregnancies, institutionalizing social protection for adolescent parents, and providing funds therefore, Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committees on Women, Children, Family Relations and Gender Equality, Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development and Finance.
389, an act ensuring the development, promotion, and protection of agricultural cooperatives, Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committees on Agriculture, Food and Agrarian Reform, Cooperatives, Ways and Means and Finance.
390, an act providing for the Magna Carta of Barangay Health Workers, Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Local Government, Ways and Means and Finance.
391, providing for the Magna Carta of the Out-of-School Youth, Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committees on Youth and Finance.
392, an act strengthening the constitutional rights of government employees to self-organization, collective negotiation, peaceful concerted activities, and the use of voluntary modes of dispute resolution, Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committee on Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation.
393, an act providing for the Universal Disability Support Allowance for persons with disabilities, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committees on Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development and Finance.
394, an act expanding the grounds for dissolution of marriage, instituting divorce and setting the procedures thereof, providing protections to the parties to the marriage and its common children, amending for this purpose EO 209 or the Family Code of the Philippines, Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committee on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality.
395, an act regulating the rational exploration, development, and utilization of mineral resources, repealing RA 7942, the Philippine Mining Act of 1995, and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committees on Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change, Ways and Means, and Finance.
396, an act providing for parent support and for other purposes. Senator Lacson.
To the Committee on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality.
397, an act further strengthening the foreign currency deposit law, amending RA 6426, the Foreign Currency Deposit Act of the Philippines, as amended. Senator Lacson.
To the Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies.
398, an act expanding the scope and coverage of RA 4200, otherwise known as an act to prohibit and penalize wiretapping and other related violations of the privacy of communication and for other purposes. Senator Lacson.
To the Committees on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, the National Defense and Security, Peace, Unification, and Reconciliation.
399, an act providing for a comprehensive nursing law towards a quality healthcare system and appropriating funds therefore, repealing RA 9173, the Philippine Nursing Act of 2002. Senator Lacson.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Government Organization and Professional Regulation, Health and Demography, and Finance.
Senate number 400, an act instituting a national land use policy, providing the implementing mechanisms therefore and for other purposes. Senator Lacson.
To the Committees on Sustainable Development Goals, Innovation, and Futures Thinking, and Finance. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move that we consider Senate Concurrent Resolution number 5. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is approved. Secretary is directed to read the title.
Yes.
Concurrent resolution amending the legislative calendar, the first regular session of the 20th Congress of the Philippines.
Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, just for the record, this is in relation to the request of the House of Representatives for additional 3 days of work. The proposed adjustment, Mr. President, in the calendar is deemed necessary to accommodate the timely transmittal, deliberation, and approval of the General Appropriations Bill. Mr. President, this is nothing new. We have been we have done this before, and the changes in the legislative calendar aim to ensure that we will have sufficient time for thorough examination and deliberation on the proposed national budget in accordance with our constitutional duty to enact the annual appropriations law before the start of the next fiscal year. And so with that, Mr. President, I move that we adopt Senate Concurrent Resolution number 5.
Before acting on the motion of the Majority Floor Leader, just for the record, our House counterparts got in touch with Senator Win Gatchalian and this representation, as well as Senator Joel Villanueva, requesting for this change, because if we do not change it, according to them, they will be giving us the GAB on November 11, which will effectively reduce by over a week our time to tackle the budget. However, if we adjust the calendar, they will be able to give it to us, according to them, on October 24. Although it's still recess, the Committee on Finance can already process it, and when we resume our sessions, we will be able to begin tackling the budget already in plenary, because that will enable the Committee on Finance to come up with its committee report. Acting on the motion of the Majority Floor Leader, is there any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session is suspended. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we consider Senate Concurrent Resolution number 4. This is the concurrent resolution strengthening the national budget process. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Secretary is directed to read the title of the resolution.
Concurrent resolution strengthening the national budget process by adopting and enforcing transparency and accountability measures to ensure public access to information and allow public participation in the deliberations of the 2026 General Appropriations Act.
Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, I move that we recognize the Senate Chairperson of the Committee on Finance, Senator Win Gatchalian. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Senator Gatchalian is recognized to sponsor the measure. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, I rise today to sponsor concurrent resolution number 4, which is our resolution to strengthen the national budget process by adopting and enforcing transparency and accountability measures to ensure public access to information and allow public participation in the deliberations of the 2026 General Appropriations Act. The enactment of the national budget is one of the most critical functions of Congress. It determines how government resources are spent. It is a reflection of our national priorities and directly affects the delivery of basic services to communities and families. Higit sa lahat, nagbibigay ito sa atin ng malinaw na pananaw kung saan napupunta ang ating buwis at tinitiyak na bawat sentimo mula sa pondo ng bayan ay ginugugol lamang sa mga programang tunay na nagbubunga ng kapakinabangan para sa sambayanan. This measure could not have come at a more urgent time. In his State of the Nation address, the President took aim at the budget of flood control projects. Sunod-sunod ang nagdaang mga bagyo. Sunod-sunod din ang mga pagbaha sa maraming lugar sa bansa na ikinisawi pa ng ilan nating kababayan. Ang laki ng budget sa flood control projects, hindi ba? Ano na ang nangyari? The President did not hold back. Mahiya namang kayo. His challenge to those benefiting from corruption, and it was his challenge to all of us to step up to the plate and do better. Yesterday, the President launched Sumbong sa Pangulo.ph, an online platform designed to give citizens access to information on flood control projects nationwide, while allowing any ordinary Filipino to report any irregularities. Mr. President, we at the Senate are firmly committed to accountability and earning the public's trust. This concurrent resolution reflects the Senate's commitment to that mission. Our vision for the 2026 budget is to create a budget that is effective, efficient, and lean, which will usher a golden age of transparency and accountability that will open up the budget process and empower the public to understand the budget, increase their participation, and root the system of accountability in the people themselves. The cornerstone of our concurrent resolution is making public documents, which are critical outputs at every step of the budget process, such as the General Appropriations Bill, also known as GAB, the committee report, and other pertinent documents. The key to operationalizing this is digitization and maximizing the use of technology. At the moment, only 2 documents are available to the public online: the National Expenditure Program, or NEP, which is the first consolidated document in the budget process, and the General Appropriations Act, which is the approved budget. Sa madaling salita, ang nakikita ng ating mga kababayan ay yung unang bahagi ng budget process at yung huli. Hindi nila nakikita yung produkto ng bawat stage sa proseso. Dito nagkakaroon ng pagbabawas at pagdadagdag sa budget ng mga government agencies. It is important that our countrymen see the documents on this process. We propose that the following documents be uploaded to the websites of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Number 1, the General Appropriations Bill, passed on 3rd reading by the House of Representatives and transmitted to the Senate. Number 2, the Bicameral Conference Committee report and joint explanation of disagreeing votes of the Senate and the House of Representatives. We also urge the Department of Budget and Management at a later time to upload in its website duly received copies of the Budget Preparation Form 201, a budget preparation form used by the Philippine government agencies to submit their budget proposals to the DBM. We further propose that the following documents be uploaded to the website of the House of Representatives. Number 1, transcripts of House budget briefings, public hearings, and technical working group meetings. Number 2, the Committee on Appropriations report on the GAB. And number 3, journal records of the Senate plenary, journals of the House plenary deliberations. Thirdly, This resolution proposes that the following documents be uploaded to the website of the Senate. Number 1, transcript of Senate budget briefings, public hearings, and technical working group meetings. Number 2, Committee on Finance report on the GAB. Number 3, journal records of the Senate plenary deliberations. Number 4, GAB passed on third reading by the Senate. These documents contain the transcripts of budget briefings, public hearings, and plenary deliberations. Having access to these documents is vital to ensuring that the projects of each government agency are held to public account. In addition to the documents themselves, the resolution proposes that all uploaded documents will be in formats that are timely, comprehensive, and machine-readable. This saves time and ensures that the analysis of the documents is not compromised by poor document quality. We further propose that the public will be given a platform on the websites of both the Senate and the House of Representatives to communicate their analysis, suggestions, and feedbacks on the national budget. Creating a culture of transparency and accountability for the benefit of the public is nothing extraordinary. It is our duty as servants of the people. Mr. President, dear colleagues, before I end, I would like to thank you all for rallying behind this concurrent resolution. We filed this resolution unanimously. This is living proof that there is bipartisanship between the majority and the minority when it comes to transparency and accountability. This stands as our collective commitment to honest governance, and it is this representation's prayer that the fruits of our labor take root and transform our government. We can face our countrymen proudly and tell them this is where your taxes go. Thank you, Mr. President, esteemed colleagues.
Hey, Mr. President.
Noted and entered into the records. Majority Floor Leader.
Yes, Mr.
What is the
President.
pleasure of the Honorable Marcos?
Yes, Mr. President, I just wish to observe something on number 3, line 26, page 3. Is that timely?
While we are still in the sponsorship
Okay, I'll wait.
stage,
Thank
Mr.
you.
President, perhaps we can entertain the questions later on, Mr. President. We have a number of co-sponsors and a number of senators
The
wanting
Chair will just
to...
dispose. We will act on
Yes.
the observation
the
and
indulgence
or
of Senator
perhaps
Marcos.
proposed amendment of the Honorable Marcos at a later time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this representation, together with the Senate President, Senators Francis Pangilinan and Lauren Legarda, would just like to insert into the records our co-sponsorship speech. May I put that into the record,
So
Mr.
inserted.
President? Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure is our Deputy Majority Leader, Senator J.V. Ejercito. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator J.V. Ejercito, our Senior Deputy Majority Floor Leader, is recognized for his sponsorship. You may proceed, sir.
Mr. President, dear colleagues, good afternoon. I rise today to co-sponsor Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 4, which through the initiative of our Finance Committee Chairperson, Senator Win Gatchalian, seeks to institutionalize strict transparency and accountability measure in the budget process. The resolution before us has earned the unanimous backing of this body, signifying its historic importance. I'm both honored and proud that on this issue, all 24 members of the Senate are speaking in a single unified voice. Ginoong Pangulo, malugod at buong puso nating sinusuportahan ang hakbang na ito sapagkat ang konstitusyon mismo ang nagtatakda at kumikilala sa karapatan ng sabayan sa impormasyon ukol sa mga bagay o usapin sa pampublikong interes. Binibigyan pugay natin ang layunin ng hakbangin na ito na naglalayong buksan ang proseso ng pagbabalangkas ng ating national budget, ang tunay na dapat kumakatawan sa mga prioridad, adhikain at hangarin bilang isang bansa at hindi kailanman magsilbing daluyan ng makasariling interes ni numan. Simple lang po ang mensahe ng proposisyon at layunin natin. Ang buwis ay pera ng taong bayan. Bilang lingkod bayan ay tungkulin nating tiyakin ang karapatan ng bawat Pilipino na malaman kung paano ito ginagamit, ginagastos at kung aling mga proyekto ang binibigyan prioridad ng pamahalaan para sa kapakanan ng ating mga kababayan. Ginoong Pangulo, marahil po ay wala nang mas konkreto pa na forma ng pakikisa sa ating adhikain kundi ang pagsasabatas nito. Kinikilala natin na ang napapanahon na ang mga para isali sa diskusyon at pagbabalangkas ang taunang budget ng ating mga mamamayan. Ngunit mangyayari lamang ito kung susulat at magpapasa tayo ng batas na magpapaintulot sa ating mga kabayan na mapag-aralan at suriin ang pambansang budget, ang kaban ng bayan. This representation filed Senate Bill number 770 of the People's Freedom of Information Act, which also furthers the aim of this resolution. We included a provision emphasizing on the real-time public access to government proceedings, including all government consultation and deliberations of the Executive Department in the drafting of implementing rules and regulations in the connection of the enactment of laws, plenary sessions, committee hearings, bicameral conference, committee meetings, and all public consultations by Congress, and public hearings, oral arguments, and other similar proceedings of the Supreme Court, recognized to be open by its internal rules and jurisprudence. In providing real-time access to our citizens in every step, particularly in our budget deliberations, we will make significant strides in strengthening the right of information of our citizens, which lies at the very heart of democratic governance. We recognize that by making all information with respect to the national budget readily available, easily accessible, and searchable, we open the floor for greater transparency, and by strengthening transparency measures in the budget process, we also reinforce democratic accountability in our government. Furthermore, we acknowledge that civic participation helps make governments more responsive, innovative, and effective. Ang pinaka-importante, Ginoong Pangulo, ay ang pagbubukas sa publiko ng pagdinig ng Bicameral Conference Committee na matagal na hindi open to the public. Kung wala tayong ginagawang mali, wala tayong dapat itago sa publiko. As public servants, we may always be reminded of the constitutional dictum that public office is a public trust. We may have been entrusted with a high level of trust from our constituents in the same manner that we owe in them a higher degree of service and return. Kung ang impormasyon ay kapangyarihan, tungkulin natin bilang mga halal na kinatawan ng sambayanan na buksan at gibain ang anumang pinto o hadlang na pumipigil sa malayang pagdaloy nito patungo sa taong bayan. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Noted and entered into the records. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure is our distinguished Senate President Pro Tem, Senator Jinggoy Estrada. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator Jinggoy Estrada, our Senate President Pro Tem, is recognized for his sponsorship speech. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this representation co-authored Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 4, a measure that seeks to strengthen the process of enacting the national budget through the enforcement of transparency and accountability measures, with the certainty that it is a significant initiative to promote democracy and good governance in our country. With the permission of the principal author and sponsor of the measure, Senator Gatchalian, our Committee on Finance Chairperson, it is an honor to co-sponsor Senate Concurrent Resolution 4 to manifest my full support for the immediate adoption of the same. Ginoong Pangulo, karapatan ng ating mga kababayan na malaman ang madetalye at proseso ng pambansang paggugol ng ating sinasabatas sapagkat sila ang tunay na may kapangyarihan sa ating demokratikong pamamahala at tayo ay pawang mga kinatawan lamang. Bilang mga mamamayan, sila ay nagbabayad ng buwis na siya namang ginagamit ng ating pamahalaan para sa iba't ibang serbisyo, programa at proyekto. Bilang kanilang mga kinatawan, tungkulin natin na siguruhin ng tapat, responsable at makabuluhang paglalaan ng pondo. Hindi natin may kakaila na maraming tanong, haka-haka at delegasyon tungkol sa mali, makasarili at irresponsableng paglalaan at paggugol ng pondo ng pamahalaan. Subalit kadalasan, makarating lang ito sa atensyon ng nakakarami kapag meron ng mga serbisyo na hindi na ipaparating sa ating mga mamamayan. Mga depektibong laptop na nabubunyag o tulay na bumagsak kahit hindi pa ganap na nagagamit. Because the budget cycle is a long and complicated process involving many entities and personalities in the government, it is undeniably difficult to trace and pinpoint where the misallocation or misuse of fund should be attributed to. It is therefore essential that in the performance of its constitutional duty to exercise the power of the purse, the Congress must observe full transparency and disclosure. Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 4 proposes a proactive approach in making the budget process more democratic and participative. This will ensure responsive and responsible allocation of funds and eliminate irregular, unnecessary, excessive, extravagant, and unconscionable spending of public funds. More importantly, we want to prevent unwarranted consequences of misallocation or misuse of funds, such as deprivation of health services of our people, poor quality of education of our students, delay of public services, or loss of lives of innocent persons. Utilizing the innovation and efficiency of technology, this measure seeks to make the budget documents easily accessible to the public and to put in place mechanisms through which they can provide their observations, inputs, and proposals. Sa pamamagitan nito, masusuri mismo ng ating mga kababayan ang mga dokumentong pinag-uusapan natin sa komite at sa plenaryo. Indeed, the national budget is not a mere document of numbers and amounts. It is redistribution of representation through participation, making our citizens involved in the process and allowing them to own the resulting appropriations law. It is a vital tool to achieve national development goals, a scheme to ensure public accountability, an instrument to provide secure and prosperous life to each and every Filipino. This legislative measure is one important instrument to achieve these goals. We urge our colleagues to support its immediate adoption. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Estrada. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure is the distinguished gentleman from Davao, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator De La Rosa is recognized to co-sponsor the measure. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. President, dear colleagues. The Philippines is a democratic and republican state. Sovereignty resides in the people, and all government authority emanates from them. This is the first section of Article 2 of the Declaration of Principles and State Policies in our Constitution. Having defined the extent of our territorial jurisdiction, the Constitution then proceeds to state where the real power lies, and it is with our people. Ang sambayanan po ang nagbigay ng kapangyarihan sa ating pamahalaan. Wala po ang gobyerno kung wala ang mga tao. Walang maluluklok sa kapangyarihan kung walang nagpasya kung sino ang bibigyan nito. Kung nais natin na maging pundasyon ng ating gobyerno ang trust and confidence ng ating mga kababayan, walang ibang dapat gawin kundi bahagian sila ng kapangyarihan na sa kanila naman nagmula. Granting our people the right to information is directly involving them in governance. It sends out a clear message that it is their government, or better yet, that they are the government, and that they have the right and responsibility to protect its dignity and integrity at all times. Ang right to information po ay hindi simpleng karapatan na magmasid o makialam, kundi pag-aatas ng responsibilidad sa bawat isa na ingatan hindi lamang ang kaban ng bayan, kundi ang pamahalaan sa kabuuan. Giving a more concrete and tangible representation to the phrase, government of the people, by the people, for the people. Kaya naman, Mr. President, nararapat lamang na isulong natin ang resolusyon na ito. Resolusyong nagbibigay ng akses sa pagbalangkas ng taunang budget. Nagbibigay rin ito ng aktibong partisipasyon sa mga tunay na may kapangyarihan. Ibinabalik lamang po natin ang kapangyarihan na ibinigay sa atin ng taong bayan. Ang taunang budget o General Appropriations Act ang pinakaimportanteng batas na huhubog ng direksyon ng bansa sa mga susunod na taon. Ito rin ang humuhubog na magiging estado ng buhay ng mga Pilipino sa araw-araw. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo.
Thank you, Senator De La Rosa. Majority Floor Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure is the gentleman from Tarlac, Senator Bam Aquino. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator Bam Aquino is recognized to deliver his co-sponsorship speech. You may proceed, sir.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President. I'm very happy to co-sponsor Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 4, titled Strengthening the National Budget Process by Adopting and Enforcing Transparency and Accountability Measures to Ensure Public Access to Information
and allow public participation in the deliberations of the 2026 General Appropriations Act. Let me also commend our Chairman of Finance, Senator Win Gatchalian, for this initiative, and I know that this measure will truly usher in the golden age of transparency which we all wish to have here in the Senate. Mr. President, matagal ng komplikado ang budget process ng ating gobyerno at kada taon nananawagan ang ating kababayan na naghahanap ng paraan para makilahok sa proseso. Mr. President, the General Appropriations Act or the GAA is one of the most, if not the most important legislation that we deliberate on. Ang GAA ang pinanggagalingan ng pondo para sa mga programang pampubliko at dito tayo kumukuha ng pondo para mapanatiling tumatakbo ang ating gobyerno. Ang concurrent resolution na ito ay importante para pasimplihin ang budget process, nagbibigay daan sa pag-access, higit na pag-unawa at higit na pakikipagtulungan mula sa executive hanggang sa legislative at kasama ang mga NGO at civil society groups na mahalaga sa pagpapalakas ng ating demokrasya. Bawat piso, alam ng tao. Ang budget na para sa taong bayan dapat maging bukas at transparent upang masigurong nilalaan ng tama para sa mga tamang programa at naramdaman ng mga tamang taong nangangailangan sa ating bayan. Kapag kasama sa proseso ang tao, mas may babalik ang tiwala sa gobyerno. Sa ngayon po, hindi naiintindihan na nakararami ang mga budget documents at dahil dito, nahihirapan din tayo sa paggawa ng mga programa at mga batas na nakakatulong sa taong bayan. The complicated nature of the budget has also made it difficult to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of public programs. Kanina lang po sa aming hearing, nakita na malaki ang agwat ng presyo ng DPWH pagdating sa mga classroom at ng mga pribadong NGO o grupo at mga local government units. And of course, napag-uusapan din natin ang bilyong-bilyong nakalaan sa flood control. Ang pondo dapat diretso sa proyekto para sa taong bayan at hindi sa bulsa ni numan. That is why, together with my colleagues, I fully support this move that empowers the public to participate in the deliberations of the 2026 GAA. Not only do we encourage public participation, but we also call on all government agencies and offices involved in the budget preparation to make all official documents easy to understand and accessible to the public. Kailangan nating magtulungan mula Senado hanggang Kamara, mula Malacanang hanggang sa bawat sulok ng ating bansa. Kailangan nating magkaisa para sigurado na ang budget na inilaan sa 2026 ay tunay na para sa lahat ng Pilipino at para sa ating bayan. Isa po ang inaasahan nating lahat, ang pera ng bayan para sa bayan. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And again, we commend the initiative of Senator Gatchalian for this measure. Salamat.
Thank you, Senator Aquino. Majority Floor Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, next to co-sponsor is the distinguished gentleman from the great province of Palawan, Senator Erwin Tulfo. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized to co-sponsor the measure. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, today I rise to co-sponsor a measure that goes to the very heart of good governance. Concurrent resolution strengthening the national budget process by adopting and enforcing transparency and accountability. Measures to ensure public access to information and allow public participation in the deliberation of the 2026 General Appropriations Act. Ito po ang inaantay ng mga kababayan natin na sila ay maaring makialam, makinig, at ika nga may pakialam dahil after all, Ginoong Pangulo, pera din naman po nila ito. Wala pong iniwan ito sa isang tao na kapag naglabas ng pera mula sa kanyang bulsa, dapat ay alam niya kung saan napupunta ang pera niya. The budget is more than just a mere document of revenues and expenditure. It is a reflection of our priorities, commitment, and our values. Malinaw po ang directive ng ating Pangulong Marcos. First, alignment with administration priorities. Second, shovel implementation readiness. Third, agency absorptive capacity. And fourth, available fiscal space. And lastly, prioritization, straight ranking of budget proposals. May sasakatuparan lamang natin ito if we lead in advancing fiscal transparency and ensuring that citizens are empowered to monitor how public funds are planned, allocated, and spent Tulad po na nabanggit ko po kanina, Ginoong Pangulo, karapatan po nilang malaman kung saan napupunta ang kanilang budget, kung ito po ba ay ginagastos ng tama. Dahil hindi naman po ito budget ng mga mambabatas, kundi budget po ito ng mga kababayan natin. Sinusuportahan ko na magkaroon ng digital access sa mga dokumento patungkol sa ating 2026 budget. This measure seeks to mandate open, accessible, and comprehensible budget data and allow greater public participation in the deliberation of the 2026 General Appropriations Act. Transparency, Mr. President, strengthens governance. My dear colleagues, passing this measure is not merely a procedural improvement. It is a declaration of our democracy. The people have the right to know, and we have the duty to inform them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Erwin Tulfo. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure is the gentleman from Isabela, Senator Raffy Tulfo. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator Raffy Tulfo is recognized to co-sponsor the measure. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bilang kawani ng bayan, isa sa pinakamahalagang bahagi ng ating saligang batas ay ang artikulo tungkol sa pananagutan ng mga public officers. Let me quote, "Public office is a public trust." Alam na po natin lahat yan. Public officers and employees must at all times be accountable to the people. Kailangan pangangalagaan natin ang tiwala ng taong bayan at dapat handa tayong managot sa kanila sa lahat ng ginagawa po natin. Mr. President, ang mga budget documents po tulad ng National Expenditure Program o NEP ay pinapublish ng DBM. Ang committee budget hearings sa House at dito sa Senate naman ay lahat mapapanood sa internet at kinocover ng media. Gayon din ang plenary deliberations. Napapanood din po ng publiko. Bakit natin ginagawa ito? Dahil gusto natin makita ng publiko na pinahalagaan natin ang transparency at accountability sa mga desisyon tungkol sa pagkakagastusan ng kaban ng bayan. Kaya naman po, walang dahilan bakit sa dulo ng napaka-transparent na budget process ay magiging malihim tayo. The power of the purse is not a power meant to benefit those who hold that power. Rather, it is a power granted to the legislative because we have the mandate of the people. The people voted every representative in the House and every senator because they believe we will promote their welfare and protect their interests wherever we prepare the budget and enact laws. That is why I fully support this resolution. Handa po ako at ang buong Senado na managot sa taong bayan. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Tulfo. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure is the gentleman from Camarines Norte, Senator Robin Hood Padilla. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator Robin Hood Padilla is recognized to co-sponsor the measure. You may proceed, sir.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo, at sa atin pong pinunong mayorya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mga mahal kong kasama, karangalan kong tumindig bilang kapwa may akda at sponsor ng Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 4. Kinikilala ko si Senator Win Gatchalian, may Einstein, at tayong lahat na pumirma. Patunay ng pagkakaisa para sa isang malinaw, tapat, at may pananagutang budget process para sa 2026 GAA. Ayon sa saligang batas, tungkulin ng Estado ang full public disclosure at karapatan ng mamayan ang impormasyon. Kapangyarihan naman ng Kongreso ang budget. Kaya't ang ilantad sa publiko ang bawat piso at pahina ay karapatan ng taong bayan. Kaya't mga kasama, gusto ko pong ipaalala, noon pa lang ika-19 ng Kongreso ay pinapaalala ko na ang kapangyarihan ng public information. Napakahalaga po nito. Ito na po siguro ang pinakamahalaga. Kaya't ako po ay suportado ko na ang hakbang na i-upload sa website ng Senado at Kamara ang lahat ng dokumento ng budget, oras tama, kumpleto at madaling mahanap Buksan ang mga pagdinig at ulat at magbigay ng plataforma para sa boses ng mamamayan. Transparency ay aksyon, hindi drama. Proteksyon nito sa pondo ng tao. Panahon na para gawing pamantayan ang liwanag mula sa budget call hanggang pirma ng Pangulo. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Robin Hood Padilla. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure is our distinguished Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Lauren Legarda. Oh, sorry. The distinguished lady from Antique, Senator Lauren Legarda. I move that she be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator Legarda is recognized to co-sponsor the measure. You may proceed, ma'am.
Pagalitan tuloy ako. Mali ako.
Thank you. It was in 1998 when I was a member of the minority. But I'm not a deputy minority leader. I'm a mere member of the
I
minority.
stand corrected, Your Honor, Mr.
Yes,
President.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. But even if I'm a member of the minority, I support this, especially as it is chaired by distinguished colleague Senator Gatchalian. I hope that he will accept my amendment later. I rise today in support of this concurrent resolution which seeks to make the 2026 General Appropriations Act truly reflective of the people's will by ensuring public access to budget-related documents that promote transparency. The Senate's work to make our budget process more transparent and accountable should not end with this concurrent resolution alone. This is not a panacea to the deeper problems that have long affected the way we craft and approve our national budget. It is a step forward, but one that must be followed through with further and more strategic reforms. As such, I wish to highlight key issues that must be addressed along with existing measures aimed at meeting the call for a more effective budget process. First, this concurrent resolution complements the transparency measures proposed by Senate Joint Resolution Number 1, filed by the members of the Senate Minority Bloc, which seeks to open all bicameral conference committee deliberations to the public. This reform would close a significant gap that the concurrent resolution, important as it is, cannot by itself resolve. For too long, key stages of the national budget process, especially the bicameral conference committee deliberations, have taken place out of public view. This has created perceptions and at times the reality of last-minute changes and decisions made without plenary scrutiny or interpellation. As a result, the budget is often viewed as being shaped by limited decision makers rather than thorough, open, and inclusive deliberations. As such, live stream access, the publication of a matrix comparing House and Senate versions, and the release of comprehensive minutes should be standard operating procedures. These measures will help dismantle the culture of secrecy that has too often surrounded the bicameral process and restore fidelity to the Constitution's mandate of transparency and accountability. Transparency, however, must be matched with participation. That is why I also draw attention to the proposed people's participation in the National Budget Process Act filed by Senator Lacson and this representation. This measure institutionalizes the role of civil society organizations in the preparation and authorization of the national budget. It guarantees at least 30% representation for marginalized sectors, ensures access to agency performance data, and allows CSOs to provide policy critiques. These safeguards will give communities, especially those most affected by government spending, an active voice in how public funds are planned and allocated. Openness and participation are not enough if we continue to measure success only by pesos spent or projects completed, rather than by the real and lasting changes they create. Every budget season, agencies face one simple but fundamental question: how did your initiatives improve the lives of the Filipino people? Filipinos deserve to know not just what was delivered, but what changed because it was done. Yet the answers we often hear, families reached, roads paved, beneficiaries enrolled, speak only of outputs, not outcomes. They tell us about activity, not impact. Did free Wi-Fi in schools improve student learning? Did livelihood training translate to sustained income? Did new rural clinics lower maternal deaths, or expand access to treatment. Too often, these questions are neither asked at the start or measured along the way, nor answered at the end. Without credible evidence, accomplishments become echoes of effort rather than the proof of change. So the gap lies not in intent, but in the absence of a results-based system that tracks, measures, and applies lessons. For decades, the lack of a systematic, integrated monitoring and evaluation framework has hampered our ability to assess effectiveness. Reports rely on outputs, evaluations are inconsistent or unused, and findings rarely feed back into policy and budgeting. Funds are spent without a feedback loop for improvement. This matter cannot be overlooked anymore, and that is a reason why I've filed the National Results-Based Governance Act in this Congress. Your Honor, speak of the 30 to 60% loss to corruption, wastage, and substandard work in our flood control infrastructure. Now imagine if, instead of losing that much, we embedded a 3% allocation for results-based monitoring and evaluation in every project. Though small, this could safeguard projects, ensure real impact, and prevent far greater losses to the public purse. Measurement, however, depends on the availability of reliable data, which is why I also filed the Open Government Data Act. This measure seeks to embed knowledge management and transparency into the routine work of government, moving beyond the system that reacts only to requests for information or data. The need for this measure is clear to me because I've seen time and again how uneven and elusive government data can be. I recall a heated budget hearing where sectoral data suddenly became available upon request, complete with charts and reports. This was in stark contrast to ordinary days when agencies would claim that such information was unavailable, confidential, or buried in the bureaucracy. In my 4 Senate terms since 1998, including the several years as finance chair, we have witnessed this pattern repeatedly. Data emerges when budgets are on the line, but vanishes when it is most needed to shape policy, to inform the public, guide investments, or engage citizens. Under the proposed Open Government Data Act, agencies must consistently, periodically publish high-impact data sets in open, machine-readable formats, establish a central open data portal, and maintain a registry of withheld data to ensure accountability even when disclosure is lawfully restricted. This is a clear departure from the present system, where agencies often keep documents behind procedural barriers wherein the freedom of information process has institutionalized a form of red tape that hinders public access. Sa ganitong mga paraan, ang mga detalye ng programa, proyekto at mahalagang impormasyon ay maaari nating kilatisin at suriin ng lahat nang hindi na kailangan mangulit, manghingi, maghintay pa ng mabagal at malabong tugon mula sa ibang ahensya. Taken together, these measures and the concurrent resolution before us will transform our budget process from a closed-door negotiation into a public exercise in democratic governance. Mr. President, it is time to take decisive steps towards greater openness in the budget process. Let us pass this concurrent resolution and ensure that complementary reforms are advanced so that transparency, participation, and accountability become the foundations of how we spend. A budget made in full public view, supported with results-based and open government data, will always advance the people's interest. The veil surrounding the budget process must be lifted, allowing every peso to be accounted for, observed, examined by the people. Salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Legarda. Noted and entered into the records. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, next to co-sponsor the measure is the distinguished gentleman from the province of Davao, no other than Senator Christopher Bongo. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator Go is recognized for his co-sponsorship speech. You may proceed, sir.
Mr. President, I rise to co-sponsor the concurrent resolution to strengthen the national budget process by adopting and enforcing transparency and accountability measures to ensure public access to information and allow public participation in the deliberations of the national budget. Mr. President, I laud this initiative led by Senate President Chis Escudero and our chairman of the Committee on Finance, Senator Win Gatchalian. As you know, Mr. President, I had reservations on the BICAM report for the 2025 budget. In fact, I did not sign the BICAM report. Particularly, I am saddened by the zero budget given to PhilHealth. While we acknowledge that PhilHealth has still billions in reserve funds, as discovered and discussed in 5 hearings conducted by the Committee on Health last Congress, subsidy from the national government may still be needed to implement necessary reforms and improvements in its benefit packages. Kung meron man pong nabawa sa health, ay dapat po sa health ito mapunta. It has been my call for a participative budget process. Dapat talaga involve ang ating mga kababayan sa bawat proseso. Pera po ng taong bayan ang pinag-uusapan natin, kaya dapat alam nila at may partisipasyon sila sa proseso. Bawat piso ay mahalaga sa bawat Pilipino. This is in line with Section 28, Article 2 of the 1987 Constitution, which declares that the state adopts and implements a policy of full public disclosure of all its transactions involving public interest. Section 7, Article 3 of the Constitution provides that the right of the people to information on matters of public concern shall be recognized. It is for these reasons that I support this resolution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Go. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, last but not the least, to co-sponsor the measure is the distinguished lady from Taguig and Pateros, no other than Senator Pia Cayetano. I move that she be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized to co-sponsor the measure. You may proceed, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. President, I rise today to co-sponsor Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 4, which seeks to institutionalize greater transparency and accountability in our national budget process. The General Appropriation Act is one of the most important legislation that Congress annually passes. It reflects our priorities as a nation and the kind of future we envision for our people. I have been the Vice Chairman of the Committee on Finance, handling the budget of education for 6 years and the budget of health for 5 years. All of these debates have been open to the public, live-streamed and accessible to all. But in the final stages, the BICAM, it has not been treated the same way. And even I, as Vice Chairman of the Committee on Finance, only learned after the fact that the budget I proposed and approved by the Senate is changed in the BICAM. By mandating the timely and transparent release of budget documents, we are removing barriers and encouraging genuine public participation. An open budget process compels us as legislators and government alike to act with greater diligence, fairness, and integrity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Pia Cayetano. Majority Floor Leader.
Yes, Mr. President. First to interpolate the measure, Mr. President, is our distinguished Minority Leader, Senator Tito Soto. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator Soto is recognized for his interpolation interjection. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the distinguished sponsor or any of the numerous sponsors answer some questions for clarification for the benefit of all, some points of the intent of the resolution? And just for the record, at the outset, I would like to place on record that this is indeed a very commendable resolution. As a matter of fact, I signed it, but I signed it with to amend, because I will be proposing amendments later when it comes to the period of amendments. So will the distinguished sponsor from the city of Valenzuela favor us with some answers, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President, I would be more than, it's an honor for me to receive questions from our Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Honor, it is actually good to have an outward push by the Senate to include the public and give them a platform on the website to communicate, analyze, suggest, and give timely feedback. Now, I wonder what measures would be put in place so that it would not be abused by state or non-state actors. What would be the vetting process for the review of the feedback from the public?
Well, Mr. President, the reason why we included number 5, and let me just read, the public shall be given a platform on the websites of both the Senate and the House of Representatives to communicate their analysis, suggestions, and feedback on the national budget. So, the concept here is we're completing the entire cycle, Mr. President. So, with this resolution, we are now publishing information that will help the public analyze the budget, hopefully make suggestions, even criticisms if they feel that it should be criticized. But the basic concept here is information that will help them process and analyze the budget will be made available to them in readable format, no, hindi lang yung picture. And to complete the cycle, they should have this mechanism to send us their analysis, feedback, and this is through electronic form, which is the website, Mr. President. Of course, Mr. President, I appreciate the question of the minority leader that all of these feedbacks and questions and suggestions should be processed very carefully, because it might come from sources that are not credible, or sources that are not maybe they're not equipped in analyzing the budget. So since this will be reviewed by the Senate, we will be very careful in analyzing the feedbacks that we are going to get, Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead.
So in other words, we will not just take it hook, line, and sinker. We will definitely analyze the feedbacks that we will be getting. So we welcome feedbacks, but the feedback should also be credible and in line with the budget process, Mr. President.
Yes, so that there will be a vetting process on the feedback.
Yes, Mr. President.
Right.
Internally, since this will be through our email system, and this will not be published, no, for data privacy purposes. So in other words, the receiver, which is the Senate, will vet the feedbacks that we will be getting. We will process and vet that very carefully, Mr. President.
I like that phrase very carefully, because I would like to be assured that no foreign entities or militant organizations will use the published information in a manner that might compromise our national security. So we would like to take that assurance from the sponsor.
Yes, Mr. President. We would, the Senate, through the Budget Office, the LBRMO, will be very careful also in terms of national security information, Mr. President. So we will also consult with them if there are items in the budget that are deemed harmful to our national security. Then we will also be very careful in publishing that. We will also consult with the executive regarding what items are those. As a rule, Mr. President, we want to publish all the budget items, but if there are national security concerns in those information, then we will be very careful in publishing those in our website.
All right. How about those who would want to participate but do not have easy access to Wi-Fi, smartphone, or a personal computer? Are there any other steps that would allow the public to participate without any form of technology? We can come up with more inclusive mechanism to allow them to have access?
Well, Mr. President,
Offline?
I'm sure you know that these materials are voluminous. Ang kakapal ho nila, like for example, the NEP is already 400 pages per volume, Mr. President. And we're talking about 4 volumes. The GAB is also